Well, last night, around 10:40 Eastern Time, I got whisked off by limousine to the MSNBC studios here in Washington, D.C., and was on Lawrence O'Donnell's show. It's been a couple of years since I've talked with Lawrence. You know, he's a good guy, and it was nice being on his show last night. Thank you, Lawrence. But anyhow, the point is, the discussion was basically, should Elizabeth Warren endorse Bernie Sanders? And I'm saying, yes, she should, because they share issues right down the board. And Casey Hunt made a really interesting point. I was on a panel with Casey Hunt and David Axelrod and David Korn. And Casey Hunt's insight, I thought it was particularly insightful. She was like, you know, Elizabeth Warren wants to be a senator and wants to have power and authority in the Senate. The Clintons have long memories, and they punish their enemies and help their friends. So if Elizabeth Warren endorses anybody before the primary who is other than Hillary Clinton, a lot of opportunities for her, if Hillary Clinton becomes president, may close. A lot of doors may close. And this is true not, of course, just of Elizabeth Warren. I mean, Cory Booker yesterday endorsed Hillary Clinton, and, you know, you can question his motives. I think that Hillary Clinton is a good and viable candidate. I think Bernie Sanders is better, but, you know, they're both fine with me, you know, given what we have. For that matter, I don't know that much about, but I'm not all offended by Martin O'Malley. We've been, apparently, I think Sean has been talking to his people about getting him on the program and taking calls from you. That would be interesting. But in any case, the point that I made last night that I think was the most important point is that not only can Bernie win the Democratic primary, I believe he can win the White House, and that if he does so, well, here's a little clip of the conversation.
Thom Hartmann, would you put it as a matter of political integrity that Elizabeth Warren should endorse Bernie Sanders, that he is the closest representation of her views in this campaign?
Well, yeah, I understand the political calculus that David was talking about, and don't disagree with that. But yeah, I think so. I mean, basically, they're saying the same things. They're saying it's time to bring transparency, openness, integrity back to the political process, and get money out of the political process, overturn Citizens United, put the middle class back together, strengthen Social Security. These are solid issues. These are genuinely solid issues, and I think that Bernie Sanders. And I say this, I wouldn't, you know, for a long time I didn't actually think this, and now I'm absolutely convinced of it. He has the potential to be the next FDR. There you go. So, and the reason why, I mean, you know, if you look at Bernie's positions, basically it's just a complete repudiation of Reaganomics and taking us back to the economic and social system that we had from the 1930s until the 1970s, the end of the 70s, until 1981 when Reagan took office, which was Keynesian economics, for lack of a better word. The government was the employer of last resort. The government provided health care, you know, Medicaid, then Medicare, or Medicare, then Medicaid. The government provided an old age pension program and also 1/3 of Social Security as disability benefits for those who are unable to work. It, you know, just as a starting point. I mean, in 35, Bernie passed, or maybe it was 33, Bernie passed Glass-Steagall. Excuse me, not Bernie, FDR passed Glass-Steagall. And Bernie is saying, hey, let's bring back Glass-Steagall. In 35, it was the Wagner Act. You know, they legalized unions. And Bernie is like, you know, let's stop this Republican trend of criminalizing unions, essentially, or destroying them. And we are, I think later on today, going to be having a discussion about that. Bernie said, you know, let's go back to supporting unions. I mean, even Eisenhower ran in '56 on a campaign of how much union membership had increased during his presidency. I mean, it's, of course, you know, Republicans these days would say Eisenhower wasn't actually a Republican. He certainly wasn't a Republican by the standards of today's party. He was not a Fox so-called news Republican. In fact, he laughed at people like that. He said their numbers are stupid and they are wrong. Excuse me, their numbers are small and they are stupid. That was the phrase in his letter to his brother Edgar. So, anyhow, do you think that Bernie Sanders could be the next FDR? Or for that matter, is it possible that Hillary Clinton could be the next FDR? You know, is it possible that there's enough of a movement in the United States, and I'm seeing this both on the left and the right, and I'm guessing that, you know, Bernie's, you know, I've talked often about insiders and outsiders, and I didn't want to get into it last night on TV because I was sitting there with a couple of insiders who might have taken offense, and it wasn't all that relevant anyway. But basically, this city is not divided into left-right. It's divided into insiders-outsiders. And, you know, like on the Republican Party, you got outsiders. Basically, Rand Paul has become an outsider. And in the Democratic Party, you've got, well, I think Nancy Pelosi recently said that Elizabeth Warren doesn't speak for the Democratic Party. And, you know, so Nancy Pelosi is the ultimate insider, right? Former Speaker of the House. And Elizabeth Warren is apparently viewed as an outsider. And I think this is going to be an outsider election. I really do. And this is something that the Republican Party is struggling with. Jeb Bush is the ultimate insider. He's the one that Wall Street wants. He's safe. He's predictable. He'll always be in favor of business. He can bring along, you know, he control and bring along, you know, the social conservatives by talking about abortion and talking about women's issues or whatever, you know, in ways that satisfy the right-wing base. Although he's rather moderate on immigration, and you know, so in any case, the Republican Party, it appears to me, Donald Trump is the ultimate outsider, and he's the number 2 in all the polls right now. He's number 2 in the Republican race. I think that, by the way, is not so much that he's an outsider, although I think that's a big piece of it, because no insiders are calling for this. I think it's because Donald Trump is saying our trade policies suck and need to be completely rebooted from the ground up. And he's right. But that will not get covered in the press. He keeps saying it, but then the commentary goes off in completely different directions. They never have commentary about Trump's comments on trade. Never. Because the networks are part of the cabal of big transnational corporations that are going to benefit from shipping more American jobs overseas and further eviscerating the American middle class to the benefit of the CEOs and the banksters. So anyhow, if I look at the accomplishments of the New Deal over and over and over again, I see over and over and over again Bernie Sanders' platform. It just seems that straightforward.